Hey yo, what's crackin' big smackin'? My name is Employer, help me scroll backwards, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today's video, I wanted to break down the lore of Terminus Island. The entire lore, I wanted to break it down and explain it, and I will give a fair warning before the video starts right now that whenever I am breaking down this lore, I am going to also be playing a lot of the audio logs from the in-game intel, specifically probably all of them, because they are very important when it comes to understanding the lore. I will break them down, and then I will probably play the audio log after so that you guys can understand, so that you guys get a better idea of who these characters are and can connect to the characters more. Furthermore, I'm going to be talking about specifically Terminus Island. I will dip into other maps here and there from throughout the Zombies timeline, but for the most part, I'm just going to be dipping into Terminus Island's lore, as this island and this map has a lot of deep-rooted lore and a lot of tragedy behind it that I really would like to talk about. And if you guys would like to see more videos like this explaining each and every map that comes out on BO6, I'd be happy to do so. So, without further ado, let's get right into the lore of Terminus Island. So for you guys to truly understand Terminus Island's lore and to really get a good grasp of it, we really need to first look back at Cold War Zombies, in-game intel, as well as Black Ops 1's campaign, and as well as the old Aether Story Zombies timeline. But we're only going to touch on it, so don't worry, it's not going to take too long. So the first person we need to talk about here is Gregory Weaver. Gregory Weaver is a very important character in the Call of Duty Zombies timeline right now. He is a big character in Cold War Zombies and is an even bigger character here in Black Ops 6 Zombies, as well as a big background character in MWZ and a couple other games like that. Weaver was originally in the Black Ops 1 campaign. He's a member of the CIA, and he was originally Russian. He has his left eye gouged out by Kravchenko, that's why he has an eye missing and always wears an eye patch. And along with this, after the events of Black Ops 1's campaign, he gets placed in charge of a brand new CIA organization that's top secret called Requiem that is made to deal with incursions and outbreaks from different dimensions and stuff like that. Just odd stuff, really, is what we know. You also might recognize Weaver from the Black Ops 1 campaign as one of the two guys with Hudson who were interrogating Mason to find out the information he had because of being brainwashed. In 1979, during the ongoing revolution in Iran, Weaver gave tactical assistance to multiple different people. He helped people get out of the revolution, get out of the area, and one of these people he helped extract, who wouldn't have been lucky enough otherwise, was Samantha Maxis. For those of you who don't know or just a little new, in Black Ops 4's Tag Their Totem map, they ended the Aether story, the original storyline, where all the different dimensions in the multiverse that was a part of that, which we can talk about another time, was collapsed into one singular universe due to Nikolai following the Chronorium, and the only two survivors of that singular universe who didn't get killed or put into the Dark Aether were Samantha Maxis and Eddie Richtofen. They held hands and walked into the portal to the new singular universe together. So this version of Samantha Maxis that Weaver helps rescue and encounters here is actually the same Samantha Maxis from the old multiverse. This means that this Samantha Maxis still lived through all the stuff that happened in the old story, meaning she could still have memory of it all and thus could still hold a little bit of hatred for Richtofen. After being rescued by Weaver, Maxis acquired information to facilitate an operation undertaken by Weaver. This is in the new singular universe, for those who are following along. The operation was an assassination, with Weaver burning the house down to get the kill and also to cover his tracks afterwards. As far as Weaver was concerned, the young boy who lived there, the child who was living there at the time, was residing with his mother instead. But unknown to him, however, they were still in the house, both of them. When Weaver arrived at Max's apartment, he was wounded and deeply shaken by the death of the mother and child, whose existence he had discovered far too late. The mother and child in question here are the wife and son of one Edward Richtofen. Yes, that Eddie Richtofen, the one who came through the portal with Samantha Maxis, and it is still that version of Richtofen. In 1983, a meeting was held by top U.S. officials regarding outbreak zones caused by the reactivation of an old Nazi particle accelerator. Well, along with this, a new office in the CIA was formed called the Office of Requiem. The director of Requiem ended up being selected, and it happened to become Eddie Richtofen. Along with this, Eddie Richtofen personally selected Weaver to work as a special officer for Requiem's Field Operations Division. The other heads of Requiem would include the security lead, Major Mackenzie Carver, unnatural sciences lead doctor, aka Elizabeth Gray, and energy research lead doctor, Oscar Strauss. Now, this is where we're going to time jump a bit, because I don't want to cover all of Cold War Zombies in this video. So instead, I'm just going to say that essentially, they get through this entire Cold War Zombie storyline, and at some point, they end up fighting an elder god known as the Forsaken, and the Forsaken ends up being too powerful for them to stop, essentially. So Samantha Maxis sacrifices herself by slamming herself into the Forsaken using her powers and link to the Dark Aether to entrap her and the Forsaken in the Dark Aether for good, and essentially means that she is trapped in the Dark Aether, and now Requiem crew is left without her, and Weaver really feels a need to free her from the Dark Aether because of her sacrifice. This caused the outbreak zones to stop and to end, and all of the outbreaks that were currently happening across the globe dissipated and ended. They had officially shut down the outbreaks that were happening. So, relaxing in his chair, he thanks Sam one last time for her sacrifice before getting arrested along with the rest of the Requiem crew under the orders of Eddie Richtofen with Project Janus. Project Janus is a secret organization led by Requiem's director, Edward Richtofen, who intends to use Ethereum to manipulate space-time and secure a Sentinel artifact for an unknown purpose, which we'll get into in a minute. Weaver and the rest of the Requiem crew were sent to Terminus Island, a black site facility in the Philippine Sea, where they were to be imprisoned and tortured for years on end, with Richtofen specifically requesting that Weaver had to suffer for what he had done. Weaver and the rest of the Requiem crew were then broken out in 1991, 5 years later, by a smuggler named Maya Aguinaldo, who is looking for her brother Nathan, who was taken by the French syndicate, who is led by Franco. Maya is working with a character named Peck to free them from prison on Terminus Island. Peck is a guy who at the end of the Cold War Zombies timeline defected from a group called Omega Group, but whenever he was in Omega Group, which for the record is pretty much just the Russian version of Requiem, they were trying to do the same thing but for very different reasons and very different outcomes. Instead of trying to stop the outbreaks, they were trying to use them and wage war with the Ethereum that was being produced from it. So Omega Group was trying to do that. Peck was a member of it. He defects, and while defecting, he ends up going to look for the Terminus Island crew. But when he was in Omega Group, he actually caused Samantha Maxis to be trapped in the Dark Aether for years at one point. So Peck is actually a big problem within the Cold War zombie story, and he's actually not that good of a guy. But just know that right now he's here to help them, and him and Maya are working together, and they freed them from prison. Now, before we go any further, what actually is Terminus Island? Why were Weaver and them sent here? Is it just a prison? Is it just a black site facility? Well, no. It is a scientific research facility owned and operated by Project Janus, and specifically chosen to be used by Dr. Richtofen, who chose a person named Dr. Modi as the person to run it.
Conclude our island tour. We have your atrium lab. So, what do you think?
It's an ideal space. Very Spartan at the moment. I assume the regulatory parties have not made their pass yet. Once they've made their structural safety recommendations, I will, of course...
Dr. Modi, I would never waste your valuable time with such trivial matters. This is your island. I trust you to make it your own. Now, energy and weapons will pacify the backers, but I chose this with your biological experiments in mind.
That part of my portfolio is considered controversial. Many have called it torture.
We are a rare breed, my dear doctor. You and I both know the price of true progress. It is that work which brought you to me. I will not allow you to be shackled by idealistic bureaucrats. In return, I expect you to deliver, by any means necessary.
That won't be a problem.
Ah, good. Then we understand each other. Welcome to your new home.
So who is this person leading Terminus Island? Who is Dr. Modi? Well, as we just heard in the audio, she is a person known for her controversial, unconventional, unethical, and downright horrifying biological experiments on human beings. And, dare I say, even evil experiments on human beings. Eddie Richtofen chose Dr. Modi specifically because he knew that she'd be willing to do the horrific things he wants done to humans to be able to get the results he wants for Project Janus, which, as of right now, we still don't know a lot of what Project Janus's goals or motives are, but we know that they do horrible test experiments with Ethereum and human beings, and we know that Dr. Modi is fully willing to do them, and is not only willing to, but is happy to, and enjoys them, and actually feels like she gets happiness out of it. And along with this, we also know that she's running certain experiment programs like the Amalgam program, where people are being turned into these weird mutated creatures known as amalgams.
With so much red tape cut down, I may have become a victim of my own success. We've gone through so many test subjects already. Franco is about to be a very wealthy man given our demand. It's clear now that humans don't tolerate Ethereum exposure without certain variables. There's more than genetic markers at play. It's something in the psyche we have yet to pin down. I'm not sure if even Strauss knows. I trust Duffer to determine that soon. The projects with the most progress are the physical mutations. The transformations are unsightly, but subjects exhibit superhuman strength and become more tolerant to Ethereum. These primitive forms have even begun to show signs of advanced sentience. If we can get them to follow orders, we're in business. I have no doubt we can synthesize a refined humanoid to protect humanity from any existential threat. And when I get us there, I'll never see red tape again.
So Dr. Modi is getting the best results from mutated experiments, and they're going through test subjects or people like they're flies. The mutated experiments, or the amalgam program, is where they are mutating human beings and torturing them using Ethereum until they eventually mutate and morph into this new being known as an amalgam. Along with this, they're trying to learn more about Ethereum through Dr. Strauss, so they're having a guy named Duffer who's hired there specifically to torture and interrogate and get information out of Oscar Strauss.
Dr. Armudi, Terminus Island personal log. Our site is now running entirely on an Ethereum-powered reactor. I must give credit to Duffer for his interrogation prowess. For 3 years he worked on Strauss. Combined with constant surveillance, we finally cracked him. He revealed the benefit of growing crystalline organisms to harness their biogalvanic energy. Once we had that, R&D was able to move very fast. The maturation pods practically built themselves.
So Ernst did end up getting the information out of Strauss that he wanted, but seemingly he didn't get any of the information out of Gray that he wanted. They were trying to interrogate all of them, but Gray held fast, even though she had showed no signs of being the type of person who could hold up during a torture interrogation.
Theo, the director, Progress Report 11/8/1990. Contrary to what some may believe, I do not necessarily take pride in my work, but I am exceptionally good at it. It is common for interrogation subjects to show resistance before ultimately breaking and succumbing to my demands. Normally, I would offer them some small chance of hope, a semblance of light at the end of the proverbial tunnel. Likewise, fear is usually a great motivator, but its apparent absence in this case makes it difficult, impossible, to achieve any kind of breakthrough. Even psychological torture and the administration of physical pain has proven utterly fruitless. So, having reviewed psychiatric evaluations from her early years of incarceration, I am at a loss to explain just where such remarkable resilience has come from. However good I may be at my work, I am forced to conclude that this individual may be of no further use to our program. Were it up to me, I would recommend that Miss Gray be terminated, or at the very least marked for biological experimentation.
So let's go back to Maya Aguinaldo for a second, one of the people who helped break the Requiem crew out of prison. Okay, who is she? Well, she's looking for her brother Nathan, who was a smuggler. They were both smugglers growing up, and they eventually started working for the French Syndicate. While working for the French Syndicate, we know that Nathan ended up getting sold to Terminus Island, and that's where he's been this entire time. Now I'm going to introduce a character who you never see talk in the map at all. You never see this character once.
27th, 1990. Inventoried more subjects today. The job never used to be this hard. I mean, it's not like I took pride in my work. I just didn't think about it. Dr. Modi scheduled psych evals for the whole tech ops team. She says she wants everyone at their best. I think she's trying to flush out the non-believers. When everyone pops up, she makes sure they're dealt with. Out in public, where everyone can see. Honestly, if you're bent on maintaining order, fear tactics aren't a bad way to go. Maybe I can get reassigned. Take a break from receiving. At first, all the subjects were just serial numbers with faces to me. I never really thought about them. And now I lay awake at night driving myself crazy over it, thinking about who they might have been before they were kidnapped or sold. Like livestock. By the time they reach us, they all have the same expression. It's almost like relief. Because none of them can think of anything worse than whatever nightmare they just lived through. Idiots.
So Guthrie here is a character who works at Terminus Island. He's one of the scientists, and he's one of the people helping experiment on and, do inventory on and kind of keep track of all the different test subjects or people that they have there. And he's starting to feel a lot more remorse. He's starting to understand that what they're doing is wrong and he doesn't like it. And along with that, we learn from this that Dr. Modi is very quick to turn on her own people during this. Gun 3 is a tragic story, and I'll get into it here in a second, and you'll see why through these audio logs, but essentially, Gun 3 feels bad. He doesn't really want to, and he's showing signs of remorse for the people that are being experimented on.
September 10th, 1990. I saw Nathan and subject holding today. I like him a lot, but walking by his cell always ruins my day. I mean, the kid's been a smuggler most of his life. He probably thought he knew the worst of what humanity could offer. And then he ends up here and realizes he doesn't know shit. So I'm protecting him the best I can, but Modi's been sniffing around. Someone must have told her he was a troublemaker. And the problem is they aren't wrong. He fights back on everything. He won't take his meds. He won't sleep. He won't eat. Why can't he get that? That kind of shit puts everyone at risk. If he ain't careful, Modi will transfer him to the amalgam program. And that'll be the end of it. I've played it safe until now. Kept my head down. If I can't convince Nathan to do the same. Damn it. This is why I don't have friends.
So Gun 3 ends up taking a liking to Nathan. He ends up liking him a lot and showing even more remorse for what's going on there. Gun 3 clearly at this point doesn't enjoy what's going on at Terminus Island and the experiments being done to these human beings. And he feels bad about that. And he likes Nathan. So he's trying to convince him to stop causing issues because Nathan is a troublemaker. He won't do what is asked of him for the experiments. And if he doesn't stop, Gun 3 says he'll be put in the amalgam program. And the amalgam program is the mutated, twisted program that turns human beings into these mutated, pain-filled monsters. And that is terrifying. And so Gun 3 doesn't want Nathan to go down like that.
October 23rd, 1990. Nathan got transferred to the amalgam program. Just like I said he would. Didn't find out until after he'd been moved. Even if I'd been there when it happened. It's not like I would have done anything to stop it. I haven't slept since. Regret's been too busy gnawing at me. So I started spending my nights searching for evidence. But the things I found. Dear God, what's being done here? I'm pretty fucking sure if you checked my entry ticket to hell, you'd find guilt by association stamped all over it. Whatever. Damage done. The important thing is, my transfer's been approved. And I sure as shit won't be leaving empty-handed. As soon as I'm out of here, I'm gonna make sure that Modi lands her ass in prison, and that this glorified meat processing plant is shut down. Then maybe I can finally sleep.
So, unfortunately, yes, Nathan ends up being put into the amalgamation program, and this means that he is now a mutated monster. It is incredibly depressing and sad, and a horribly tragic story for Nathan. And for Maya, really. And this prompts Gun 3 to start doing more researching and looking into what's actually going on at Terminus Island. See, he already felt remorseful and bad about the test that he knew was happening. But he starts doing more research into what's going on with the biological experiments and with all of the amalgamation program in general and finds out what it really does and what it really is. And he is heartbroken by it. He doesn't want to be a part of this anymore, and he gets approved for a transfer. And after getting approved of this transfer, he said that he's collected evidence and that he is going to make sure that he puts Dr. Modi in prison for everything she's done. Well, then this happens.
It certainly has been a whirlwind of events. Tying up the loose ends Guthrie left behind was a waste of time and resources. I'll admit I was surprised how much evidence he'd gathered before he was discovered. It's my own fault for becoming so lax, yet another reminder to always remain vigilant. Thankfully, his colleagues knew of his transfer request. When I told them it had been approved, they were sad he hadn't said goodbye. Funny. Despite his best efforts to destroy my work, his very existence now supports the need for it. If he continues to endure, he might end up being the longest surviving subject in the program. I would no doubt come under some fire if anyone found out that one of our own was now being kept in a tank and fed table scraps. So I've redacted any mention of his employment here. I'm currently determining how sentient he is. Guthrie, Patient 13, hasn't spoken since the early phases of his transformation. I have him on display in a high-traffic area so he can watch his colleagues go about their day. It would be a shame if he was unaware of their presence.
Guthrie was never going to be approved for that transfer request. Dr. Modi knew exactly what he was doing. She knew he had evidence, and she knew he was going to try and send her to prison. And because of that, she couldn't risk the work being shut down and Richtofen being ashamed in her. So, she had him turned into an experiment unbeknownst to the rest of his coworkers and had him put in a pod in a tank and turned into Patient 13. After this, we're going to go back now to the Requiem crew. Once they break out of prison, they then are greeted by Dr. Modi while they're on their way out. Dr. Modi is in a submarine with Ethereum warheads of PEX, notably, attached to it. Guthrie, or Patient 13, attacks her, kills her, and eats her, the ship, and the Ethereum warheads, causing him to mutate into an even bigger monster that Requiem crew then kills and takes down. After this, they end up running into the Sambot, who reveals that Richtofen is after the Sentinel artifact, which is an artifact that we'll get into in another video. But for now, that's it, and we find out that he's en route to Avalon at a castle known as Citadel des Morts. So that's where they're off to. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Hopefully I've explained the lore in the best way possible, the story behind the map, and in my opinion, this is a really good story. It's a really tragic, sad story, and you start to feel bad for characters like Guthrie and Nathan, and you start to really realize how bad Dr. Modi actually was. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys have learned a little bit. I'll see you guys in the next video, in the next stream, and in the next map. Peace out.